This excerpt from the public television program, The Piano Guy, is brought to you by NAMM, the International Music Products Association. Now we'd like to talk about a tune called It's Only a Paper Moon. It was written by Arlen, and to go through the tune with me is my good friend, Bobby Floyd. Hi, Bobby.
Hey, how you doing, Scott?
I'm doing well, thank you, and
Good.
I appreciate you coming and sharing your gift with us,
Well,
I guess,
good.
for lack of a better description.
Glad to be
now,
here.
This is a tune, obviously you've played this many times in your life. I mean, how do you go about, actually, why don't you play a couple measures of the tune first so we can get the tune in our ears, and then we'll chat about it a little bit. This is really one of those. I think a lot of people, even if they didn't know the words or whatever, they'd still recognize the melody, and they start hearing that
very
come down
popular,
the pike.
Very popular
Now,
melody.
Yeah, it really is. Now this tune, you know, when you are sitting down to play it, I guess I'll just start out by saying, how would you approach thinking through, well, you know, what rhythm am I going to use? What style am I going to use? Am I going to do it as a ballad, an up, whatever it is? How do you play this tune usually?
Well, I kind of like doing it in the close to the tempo. Nat King Cole, he was a person, a great musician that popularized this song. And Ella Fitzgerald, but Nat King Cole played it, and he did it at a medium tempo. And since I'm playing solo piano right now, I like kind of playing it in a 2-beat.
Okay. Now describe that to us. I don't think we've ever talked about that.
It's just where you're not playing in 4/4, like all 4 beats of each measure aren't your strong beats. Your strong beats are on the 1 and the 3.
All right.
You know, so it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2.
Okay. Which is okay. Well, that's a good description. The alternative being when you're really swinging hard and like in a driving 4 thing, you're kind of emphasizing 2 and 4.
Right.
You're emphasizing the backbeat coming through, but in this case, it's ba-do. Okay. And they describe that as 2-beat.
Right.
Okay. Now, I guess let's just start splitting it apart a little bit. Let's work on the chord changes first. Why don't you work through a couple of these and anything you can do to give us some tips on easy ways to maybe memorize this stuff?
Okay. Well, first of all, the chord changes. The first 4 chords, you're on the 1, and you go to the 6.
And we're starting this in key of C, right?
We're in the key of C.
Okay.
So you're on 1,
C.
you go to the 6, which is A7.
Right.
And you go back down to D, the 2. And the 5.
Well, we've heard that one before.
1, 6, 2, 5, a very popular chord progression that's used in lots of songs.
And that really is used, and I think the point to make for our viewers, and we talk about this sometimes, I always get a lot of feedback, Bobby, where somebody says, gosh, how do you guys memorize all these tunes? And, you know, how do you just blindly memorize all these chords and you know, keep all that in? And I think, and feel free to share with me on that one, that it's more patterns than it is individual chords.
That's true. That's the way you memorize. There are actually more patterns. Once you memorize a pattern, like a 1, 6, 2, 5, and like I said, 1, 6, 2, 5s are in lots of songs. So, you know, once you come across it, and once you get used to it, you know, it's no problem. You've already memorized it.
That's right, and that's kind of a hard thing to verbalize until it kind of you do it for a few times. But it is, you almost hear them coming in advance, I think.
Right.
And I'm always hoping it's kind of good news for our viewers to say, look, have faith if you can say that, because once you do it a few times, you really do get to the point where you go, oh, this is just one of those things, and then you can kind of work your way through it without thinking about it's kind of four chords for the thought of one, you know, it's whatever the progression is. So, all right, so moving on through, now a lot of these tunes of this era, I think, followed these pretty straight ahead changes like that. They do this on and on and on.
Oh, there are lots of heart and soul.
That's right.
1, 6, 2, 5,
That's right.
You know.
And then you think about all the early rock and roll tunes, all the da da da, you know, shaboom shaboom, all those tunes, they all, you know.
I got rhythm.
There you go.
Da, da, da,
So if you ever hear somebody talk about rhythm changes, that's what they mean, right? That's the other phrase you'll hear musicians say, let's play on the rhythm changes, and they're just talking about a 1, 6, 2, 5.
Right.
Easy enough. All right. Well, where does this tune progress from there?
1, 6, 2, 1, 6, 2, 5, 2, 5.
Okay.
5, 4, 1. that's the whole first. We call it. We divide the sections up: A, B, A.
Right.
That was one A section.
Okay.
So you repeat that again.
Right.
And then you have the B section, which is the bridge.
Bridge section. Okay. Okay.
And then one more A section.
And that's a really, we've talked about that. Yeah, that is a really common format for a lot of these old standards, or A, B, A. Which always makes me laugh, that rock band ABBA, if they spelled it wrong, right? It should have been A, B, A, not A, B, B, A, right? Talk to me about this a little bit. And I'd love to just, it's always interesting when I ask good players this question, I get a lot of different answers. The issue of really trying to listen to the roots or the bass line to again, help with memorizing chords or whatever. Do you really focus? I find myself, and I think sometimes I almost am, when I'm thinking through a tune, thinking, oh, what's that tune do? What I'm really doing internally is listening to where the bass line's going. And it's kind of leading me through the chord changes. Maybe that's an odd thing to ask, but any you do that all?
Well, no, I think just about every musician thinks that you think that way because the root is the most prominent. It's the note you hear the most.
Sure.
You know, so wherever the bass line is going, you're hearing that, so you can relate to that.
Well, or at the worst, I guess if you figure that out, then it's just a process of elimination. Is it a major or a minor or a seventh? You know, whatever. What flavor is it? But it's going to be on that.
Yeah, you're halfway there. You have your bass note. Figure out the chord quality that's on top of the bass note.
Right.
And you're cool.
Well, I think that at the best, or as a nugget to give away, it may be a helpful thing for people that are, again, struggling. I'm really focusing on memorizing here. We just get so much feedback from people saying, I'm working through tunes, but I have a hard time ever breaking away and really locking in the chord changes. And that's why I'm trying to dig deep and figure out some things. And that might be a good one to say, really focus on the bass line. Instead of just this literal memorizing C7, D7, whatever it may be, to say, no, hear that bass line, and then you can start, identifying things like
and the bass, your bass note has to be the right note. If you play the very chord with your right hand and play a different bass note where you're not playing the root of the chord, it's going to make the chord different.
Yeah, you've just kind of broken the backbone of the tune. It's what makes a tune is whatever those changes are. Okay, now I'll shift off that now and shift back to kind of this 2-beat thing. Let's think just technically how you're really doing this. I kind of heard in your left hand going ba-dum, ba-dum, that kind of a little thing.
Yeah, I kind of play it with a 2-beat swing feel.
So you're really just jumping from the top note of the major chord, or that fifth is what they call it, 5-1, so ba-dum.
Yeah, most of the intervals are like 5-1.
Okay.
Da-dum, da-da, ba-bum, ba-da, da-da, ba-bum,
okay.
Those are just passing notes to get back to the 1 from the 5. But for the most part, you're the 5 interval.
So the focus is on making sure you hit that root wherever the chord changes. All right. And what was nice about what you were just doing, especially if you're, I guess, accompanying yourself or whatever, is that probably is a good way to try to learn the changes, is that there's not a lot of this going on. That's not a real hard thing because your hands aren't coming down at the same time to go ba-doom, ba-dum, chord, ba-dum, chord, and you're not having all this crazy stuff going on that way. One quick comment, and then I'd love to hear you play the tune. Talk to me about your thoughts on, you need to play the melody line on the top usually, obviously, because we want to hear it most. But any nuggets you can give us as far as filling in chord tones below the melody?
It might take a little exercising or drilling to get used to doing it, but if you can kind of do what I was doing, and it doesn't have to be consistently, the bass note and chord, bass note and chord. It can be kind of sporadic.
Just as long as you're
as long as it's implied, you get it in there sometimes.
Okay. Now that makes some sense. That actually was a good one. So in that case, you're saying, I'm going to go ahead and focus on the melody line, but if I've got a little break and I'm still kind of, thinking this rhythmic thing and going, do-da, ba-do-da, and just however you can do it. Don't panic if you're doing it every time. Make sure that melody line is the priority.
Make sure you're establishing the melody and the bass line.
Okay.
And then play the chords. Not
as
consistently,
you can,
just play them as you can, yes.
Okay. Well, listen, I'd love to hear you play this whole tune.
Okay.
All right, this is going to be It's Only a Paper Moon, played by Bobby Floyd. That's great. Man, you've got such good time. It's so fun to hear you play.
Thanks.
Thanks, Bobby.
All right.
This excerpt from the public television program, The Piano Guy, has been brought to you by NAMM, who reminds you that playing a musical instrument is a fun, interactive hobby that benefits your mind, body, and spirit. It's never too early or too late to start. Want to play?